It has taken me several attempts to record this video. I think this is probably one of the better conclusions, better summaries of the topic. Hi, my name is Brian. I am the host of the Bearded Nerd podcast, where I teach players and game masters how to play, how to run games like Dungeons and Dragons, and how to grow their love of tabletop RPGs. Oftentimes, I have seen new players and especially new game masters not knowing what a game master is, not knowing what a dungeon master is. And in this video, I am going to break down what a dungeon master slash game master is and what they are not. Let's dive into this episode of the Bearded Nerd podcast. What is a game master? What is a dungeon master? What's the difference between both? Very clearly, a dungeon master is the person that runs games of Dungeons and Dragons. The game master runs tabletop RPGs. What's the difference? There really isn't any, except Dungeons and Dragons had a specific title, Dungeon Master, that is specific to Dungeons and Dragons no matter the edition. Game Master, on the other hand, is a general term used for tabletop role-playing games. You can be playing Dungeons and Dragons and still be a game master, but you cannot be running other RPGs and be called a dungeon master. It is a bit of a legal liability and legal term. I think it's trademarked if I'm not mistaken. Not a big deal. But let's really dive into what a DM is not. There has been a lot of confusion with what a DM is not. A dungeon master is not primarily a voice actor. Yes, you could be a voice actor as your job. Maybe you are working towards being a voice actor and you enjoy running games of Dungeons and Dragons. That's okay, that's fine. But in order to be a dungeon master, you do not have to be a voice actor. That is not required. Because of the rise in popularity with Critical Role, many new players that came into the hobby because of Critical Role assumed that they had to be a voice actor, and that was intimidating. You do not have to be a voice actor in order to be a dungeon master. Whether it is Dungeons and Dragons or any other RPG, you do not need to have all the rules memorized. You just need to have basic comprehension of the rules and interpret them for your game. Number 3, you are not the main storyteller. If you are playing with other people, which typically you will be, you are collaborating with others. So the pressure to be the main storyteller is not on your shoulders. But with that being said, this is what a dungeon master is. This is the fun part. This is actually what a dungeon master does. And starting off, the dungeon master is the person that sets the scene. The scene, whether it is the tavern, the forest, or the world itself, the dungeon master sets the scene, providing the players with what the players see, hear, feel, and information that is necessary for them to respond to the world. The dungeon master provides everything that they would need to interact with the world. If, for example, the players are entering a tavern, your job as the dungeon master is to clearly explain what the party sees, what they hear, and what they would need to respond to. In combat, you would tell the party where the enemies are, what they are doing, and what their environment is, and then provide a place for the party to respond within combat. Setting the scene as a dungeon master is at its core one of the most important things you will do. Whichever way that you feel comfortable setting those scenes, whether you're using the 5 senses or any other tips and tricks, you are going to want to be comfortable with that. The next aspect that I would like to drive home is being an arbiter of the rules. I stated earlier that you do not need to know every single rule, but you do need to have a basic comprehension of the rules. You have to have some sort of knowledge regarding the rules, but more importantly, be able to interpret it for your game. For example, if your player were to cast Mold Earth in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, you would want to know how that responds in your world. What does that look like in your world? Is your player able to utilize Mold Earth rules as written? Or does it look different in your world? Does it look like an earthbender from Avatar The Last Airbender? Whatever that may be, you interpret those rules and then provide a final judgment or a final interpretation of what that rule looks like. Next, you, as the dungeon master, are the person or the individual that facilitates the game. That is a big proponent. You're the one that is laying the foundation of what type of game you're playing, what genre, style, the rules that you would like to have in there. Some folks like having all sorts of homebrew rules, and some folks don't. But you're the person that facilitates the game. You're coordinating what time we're going to run the game because you are the one running the game. You are coordinating with players, the location, and all sorts of things. And yes, your players can assist. They can volunteer and say, oh, we're having it at my place. But you are still facilitating that. Be prepared for that. Be prepared to provide the players with the type of game you want to play, the type of genre, when you're going to play, rules that you will have both homebrew and rules as written, and more importantly, what you at the table will tolerate and not tolerate. What do I mean by this? Some folks have said veils and lines. Some folks have it as a black list and a red list. I just say these are things that you tolerate and don't tolerate at your game. These can be certain subject matter, certain topics. That is up to you. There are general rules for that. You can find it online. Those are rules that you will have to think about and talk to your players about. Next, the dungeon master is the person controlling the non-player characters or the NPCs. They are the ones controlling the merchant, the town's guard, or the villain themselves. Big disclaimer is that the dungeon master is not against the players. It's almost genuinely observed, especially in this generation of Dungeons and Dragons, that the DM is not going against the player. It is almost naturally to assume, and naturally correct to assume, that the dungeon master is collaborating with the other players. You're playing a collaborative storytelling game, and therefore the NPCs, the monsters, everything that the dungeon master is laying down at the table is not to go against the players and the party members. It's not to shut them down, to destroy them, whatever the word may be. It's actually there to challenge them, to create an opportunity where you can actually challenge your players. And if you think about it, in the game of Dungeons and Dragons, if a monster is placed on the table, you don't have to actually fight the monster. You can negotiate with the monster if they're sentient. You could fight the monster. You could run away from the monster. There are so many options, limitless options, if you will, that your party can take, that the players can make, but you are going to respond to that. You are just controlling those things and seeing how everything reacts. So again, it's worth noting that you are just controlling those things. And therefore, when you control them, be sure to think, well, how would this challenge my party? And how does this make sense in the world that I'm running with my friends? I mentioned earlier that you are running the game. So yes, you are technically also managing the flow of the game, but you're also going to be managing your pacing. You're going to think about how fast or how slow you're going. And you're going to learn that each table is a little bit different. So just be cognizant of that in regards to your table, because every table is different, but just keep in mind that you're going to do that. With managing the spotlight and managing the pacing, your players are going to make choices that may elevate pacing. They may slow down your pacing, and that's completely okay. That's the heart of the game in reality. Those player choices are what makes Dungeons and Dragons fun. But because that is part of the game and there isn't a script in that regard, the main thing that you need to consider is how does the world respond and or react to those player choices? Is there a good outcome? Is there a bad outcome? Or is there a neutral outcome? Those are things that you need to think about. Your dungeon master prep, your world building should include those type of thoughts in the background. And oftentimes, I love telling new dungeon masters that all the things they can think about, all the things I just said are very important because it is. It is very important to understand that that is all well and good. But the last thing that I want you to understand is that a dungeon master is there to facilitate fun. If you are having fun, and your players are having fun, then quite honestly, you're doing a great job. Having fun and making sure that your players are having fun is the most important thing. Everything allows you to support that and to facilitate having fun. So, if there's something that I missed, let me know in the comments. If there are topics that you want to learn more about, let me know in the comments. And if you're tired of prepping and just want to play great games, I run workshops and live sessions where I help you do exactly that. Check those out below in the description. I hope you have a great day wherever you are. And as always, folks, keep gaming.